welcome to this week's webinar. More of a how-to, so going to be talking through the MCP, how it works, and what you guys can do with it. So this is going to be a really practical, hands-on walkthrough. So an MCP, it stands for Model Context Protocol, which is very technical jargon. But think of it as effectively an interface for an LLM, a large language model, and agents. So this could be something like Microsoft Copilot. It can be Claude through Claude Desktop, or in the console if you're more technically minded. And it's really an interface that a large language model can go and get much greater detail about the tools it has available to it. So you may have heard of an API. A lot of people were just starting to get their heads around APIs over the last few years. That was a common way of getting data in and out of systems, interfacing with systems, and building kind of data pipelines. The MCP is very much now how a large language model does way more functional sort of functionality within a platform. So I will talk you through how to set it up. I'm personally going to use Claude Desktop, which I've got here. I've got a demo instance that I've set up of Pinpoint. So I've just got a very simple job here. This will not reflect the majority of your guys' hiring processes and application volume, but I just needed to make sure that I had some good quality data. Couple of notes before I go into setting up the MCP. We have also got new functionality that will be coming up shortly, but just to give you a sneak peek, we have something called intake notes. So this is additional context now that is really rich. And this allows you to start having your hiring briefs or your hiring intake notes living and sitting within the ATS and attached to a job. This is really where you guys can go and have the kind of nitty-gritty, candid conversations internally, set up meetings, have the transcripts, be that intake notes or upload documents or copy and paste. I say it now because it's going to be part of the context that the LLM does have access to, and I will be talking about it a little bit further down the line. So I'm using Claude Desktop. Appreciate some of you guys will be Microsoft Copilot. It shouldn't matter. We use a very standard protocol for authentication. And I'm just going to show you in Claude Desktop how you go about setting it up. So I'm on Cowork, and I'm just going to go to Customize and Connectors. And you should see Add Custom Connector. If you only see Browse Connectors, this is going to be because your organization has locked down connectors, and you will have to ask whoever administrates Claude Desktop and equivalent with Copilot to be able to add a custom connector. Once you are on this section, you can effectively now just give it a name. So I have multiple Pinpoint instances. So I'm going to cunningly call it Pinpoint with my initials. And we have this URL. So you can see a subdomain, which is DWE for my test instance. But the main thing really is /MCP after your main Pinpoint URL. I'm going to hit add. And once it's connected, well, I say connected, once it's established within Claude, I can now click connect. This will now take us through something called OAuth, which is just a technical way to authenticate who I am. So just to let you guys know that this is using my permissions, my visibilities, and this 100% adheres to everything that I can, and most importantly, cannot do within this Pinpoint instance of DWE. So really super useful. There is no leakage. There is no way that I may not have visibility over a confidential job in Pinpoint, but then actually through the MCP, I can get access to it. Super important just to remember that this 100% adheres to the same permissions and visibilities. And this is why we do this OAuth authentication. So it is now added, and I can close this window because that's redundant. Once it's added, you guys, and this is a really quick way to actually understand what's in the MCP. It's a relatively common question, but to be honest, we now have 52 tools that are for reading data, and we have 45 total tools currently that are writing and deleting data. The quickest way to have a look is if you're in Claude Desktop, just go through here. Copilot has an equivalent that you can look at the tools. really easy to give you an understanding of, right, what can this MCP actually do, and then start to establish a bit of an understanding around what you might be able to ask Claude or Copilot. I typically do always allow on read-only tools because it's non-destructive, but up to you guys. Also, if it's organization managed, they may set all of these to be always ask. And then I do always keep needs approval for anything that's write and delete, even though we do have strong schema within our MCP that tells LLMs that they should double verify certain actions. This is a complete safeguard as well. So once that's set up, I can now go back into Cowork, and I am going to start having a look at what's happened with this job. Nothing groundbreaking right now, but just a little simple prompt that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to ask, give me a snapshot of the senior product manager HR tech pipeline. How many candidates at each stage, who applied this week, and who's at interview? So we'll leave this running. Now, because I've only just connected it, Claude is now going to start to work out across all the MCPs what is the MCP that I'm potentially talking about. It's going through the different tools. It's now found the tools from that Pinpoint DWE connector. It's searching the jobs. So you can actually click. This is really useful as well if you use Claude Desktop. Definitely strongly advised to click on these just for you guys to get an understanding of what's going on. In all honesty, when all of this LLM stuff first started to come out, I just spent hours not allowing it to do auto completion or anything, and just reading literally what it was doing to understand under the hood how all of these systems actually work. So this has given me a great snapshot. I didn't have to go into Pinpoint for any of this once I had the MCP up. It's given me an overview of who's where by what stage. It's given me the 2 applicants that I geniusly added on Monday in preparation for this webinar. And it's also shown me that there's 2 at the interview stage. Again, I can click onto here. I can see the chain of thought. I can actually see, like, is this actually the right job ID? Does this look right in terms of everything that I'm expecting? Okay, so now let's get on to a little bit more of a meaty example. I really wanted to go and read the job brief for the senior product manager, and I wanted to start ranking, and I wanted to give it a one-line fit, and also look at any gaps or strengths. So we're starting to use this within, we're starting to see this a lot, and I'll just show you in Pinpoint quickly what starts working. We have Copilot, and we'll be releasing this platform-wide, which is what you can see now. But we have this AI assistance built in within Copilot, and we're seeing a lot of people using this type of prompt. So asking for summaries, asking for people in a certain stage and summarizing all of them in one go. It's a really, really nice way for you guys to get a helicopter view on what's going on and where there may be candidates that you need to spend some more time evaluating or not. So you can see it's getting application CVs. If I click on this, you can literally see everything that it's doing. It's parsing all of this information. This is not a small task, but the nice thing is whilst this is working, I can carry on doing something else. So we'll just give this a little bit of a minute. So you can see up here as well, Claude Desktop has this really nice, in Cowork, has this really nice progress. So it breaks down your task into constituent parts. And it's now showing me where it is within that process. Okay, so it's giving me a load of good information. Because I set up this job, I know the job very well, and I can tell what has actually been taken from the job description and also what has been taken from the hiring intake notes. So that's why I mentioned hiring intake notes. There was more detail in there than there was in the job description. It's now gone through each one. I'll leave you guys to sort of just skim through this. I won't bore you by reading through a wall of text. And now really interesting, it's taken its opinion on who to prioritize based on all the information that it's been given. Interestingly, from how I've set up this data, and this is an evaluation data set that we use to evaluate the quality of our internal Copilot Pinpoint assistant. it's absolutely spotted that Sarah is absolutely a standout, and Aisha and James are very strong second runners. Okay, cool. So let's find out what actually is so good about Sarah, and let's compare her to James for the role. I am copying and pasting in these prompts. By the way, we will be sharing a practical prompt cheat sheet after this webinar. I just don't think you want to watch me panic typing and no doubt fumbling for half an hour. So this is now going to narrow down. So we've gone from a very top line helicopter view, just a job summary, kind of a pulse. We've then gone into a sort of individual candidate summary. And now we're getting to the crux of, right, who do I actually want to take forward and potentially take to the higher stage, and looking individually and comparing two applicants. Okay. So you can see it's done a pretty thorough and pretty nice side-by-side comparison of the two candidates. Whilst I was looking across, I just saw Colleen, and this is not favoritism on the Q&A, and I will try and take a break in a minute to have a look. But Colleen, you can save these prompts if you're using this out of Pinpoint, which is exactly what we're doing, and which is where the MCP, if you're going to connect from Claude or Microsoft Copilot, is where you'd use it. Yes, you can share prompts. You can even go further to share skills, and I'd highly recommend, if you're using Claude Desktop, go and read up on skills, because actually skills can go and take whole tasks and break them down into individual chunks. In Pinpoint, within our own Pinpoint Copilot, you can also save prompts as well if you are only doing this within Pinpoint. And I'll talk about the differences in 2 minutes. Okay, so it's basically, this isn't strong versus weak. They're both actually very good candidates. There's just some domain specifics that I'd probably want to look at. I think actually out of all of this, I'm probably going to go and take Sarah's application forward. So let me now show you something that's a little bit more practical. That was just reading information, but let's actually do a multi-action prompt that's going to do a couple of tasks for me. So we're going to send Sarah an email. We're going to ask her whether she wants to come into the final interview. I personally am going to get a task created also to chase the panel's feedback. So that's actually going to go back into Pinpoint. And then also I'm going to leave a note for the hiring manager just to say that she's progressing. I've said show me everything. I just want to preview everything before it actually does anything. So that's going to go along. Okay, so here are the 3 tasks that I asked it to do. It's drafted me a fairly nice warm email. I would probably use another skill that I have called Humanizer, and I'd actually then go Humanizer the email. It's now given me a task here with a due date, and it's also showing me a draft. I'm just going to say, okay, these are great. Please proceed with all 3. So whilst that's doing that, I am going to just pop back into Pinpoint and also show you. So tasks will appear under here. So this is a great way. We can see within Claude that it's actually now given me an email. So it's basically just say Claude wants to send an email. I'm going to say sure, allow. Remember at the beginning when I set it up, I said that it has to ask permissions for anything that's writing. This is for the task. Absolutely, it can add the task. So you can see how this is also not an agent just taking complete control. You have control. You are drafting everything. It is not taking any action without you double checking. Okay, as if by magic, I now have the task that's come into Pinpoint. This will also then trigger any task-based activity that I have within Pinpoint. So we send out task reminder emails. We send out weekly task summaries as well. So again, I don't actually have to go into Pinpoint to remember my tasks, but at least I'm getting an email that these things have happened. If we go on to Sarah and we have a little look under comments, You can see today, this was written by me. Within our audit trail, we have Dave Edwards' agent, so we can see who it actually is, but it comes under me as the user for the main UI. But we can distinguish over any action that you take in Pinpoint, whether it is you actually in Pinpoint or whether it was you using our MCP authenticated as yourself. And then messages. We can see that there was a message sent, 2 minutes ago, and it's been delivered. Basically inviting Sarah to the interview, exactly as we saw it drafted. Okay, pretty cool. I want to kind of now go on a little bit because I've mentioned a lot about this Copilot that we have within Pinpoint. And actually, the Copilot uses pretty much all and some more tools that our external MCP has. So then you get to the question, well, what's the point in the MCP using it externally? And there's a few really useful use cases. When you're using something like Claude Desktop or Juliano, you're using Claude Console, as I do mostly day to day, you can really start to get quite powerful workflows by connecting to other systems that you have. So you could be connecting to your HRIS, your payroll, you could be connecting to Notion, you could be doing all manners of things, your emails and your diary, etc. And then that's an easy way to collate. Back in the day where we were just dealing with APIs, that kind of interconnectivity would have taken one of your engineers probably several weeks to build, to make sure it was secure, and then to maintain so that you could do a similar workflow. Now within Claude Desktop, within probably about 5 to 10 minutes, you can have all of these different platforms connected together, and then a large language model like Claude just streamlining data to and fro and checking and cross-checking and looking at your diary, checking whether the interview was properly scheduled or seeing whether you got a clash and now you need to go back to Sarah. So that's one really great way of using the MCP externally, is bringing in external data. You cannot do that within the Pinpoint Copilot because it is specific to Pinpoint and is kind of ring-fenced within our own platform. Another nice thing you can do is you can start to do things like schedule jobs. So I'm going to put in this is more of a basic job. You can, anyone using Claude Desktop, you can go and just do the command /schedule and then type every day at 7 a.m. do X. But I'm going to write it like this, which is probably more common as to how you guys would want to write it, or at least think it until you learn about skills. And basically, I'm just going to say, give me a summary every weekday at 7 a.m. So if I go and hit this, there's two, so these start to come under scheduled here, and we'll see it get set up. But basically, there's two ways of running scheduled tasks. You can either run them on your local machine, or you can run them in the cloud on Claude, depending on your subscription. I typically always leave my laptop on, so I typically have very long-running jobs that are just permanently running in the background. And if your laptop is on, it will run. If I hit schedule, I'll show you where this pops up. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get a digest every day. If I now go into my scheduled jobs, you can now see I have this daily applicant digest. So it's going to give me output format. I'm pretty sure it's only going to do it within Claude. If I had my email set up, or if I wanted to change that prompt, I could have said, send me an email to my Gmail account every day at 7 a.m. So again, this is where the power of the MCP being connected to other tools becomes really interesting in terms of what you can run. Okay, so I've just gone to, if I just do that again and just show you, the scheduled task is like a game changer. You can just have all sorts of things running every day, every week, every Monday, every weekend, what have you. So obviously we have no new applicants because there weren't any new applicants. So that's absolutely fine. But this is what it would do. It would just give me a digest and I can run that every day. So that basically is running through the practical side. There are so many things you can do. There is one setting that you guys are all going to need that I got too excited to show you. So to turn on the MCP, if you go into company and profile, you have to be a company admin. So company profile, click on preferences, and if you scroll down to AI features, this just needs to be toggled on. Once that is on, the MCP address is literally the first part. So in my instance, dwe.pinpointhq.com. Swap out DWE for your company's subdomain on Pinpoint. And after the .com, it's /MCP. And that is all you need to do to set it up. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks so much.